I've got a confession to make. What if I told you that I think rookie cards, graded cards, and some of the most iconic sets of all time just don't do anything for me? Well, it's true, and I've got 6 things from the hobby that I'm sure you like more than I do. Let's data dive. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and this week it's time for me to come clean. I've been holding some things in for quite some time now, and I cannot hold them in any longer. See, there's a lot of things in the hobby that I really just don't care about. Most people care, or in the very least, they pretend to care, but for me as a collector, I just don't get it. So allow me to explain. And as always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers, now with an improved quick search experience with foreign currency user preference options and with the largest database of featured cards on the planet. Visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DIVE when you check out. You'll get 14 days for free to try it out and then 20% off for life as long as you're subscribed. Now let's get into the data. All right, first things first, the usual disclaimers. I gotta make this absolutely clear. This is all about my personal preference and about collecting. This isn't about investment strategies or how the market works overall. This is what I think. And there's a huge, massive difference between which cards one might go after as a collector versus as an investor. Collecting is very much about going after what you like, not about what others like. Investing, on the other hand, is entirely about going after what others like, because in order for something to appreciate in value, it needs to be high in demand and short in supply relative to that demand. So I can't stress enough, don't get those two things twisted in this video. With that being said, the things I'm going to talk about do raise some important questions. Why is the hobby this way? Why is it the way that it is? And how did it get to be this way? Who were the early influencers who set some of these trends into motion? And why do we feel like we all have to play along? Let's keep those questions in mind as we get into this. And I'll start with number 1, rookie cards. And even more broadly speaking, the firsts of things. I do not care at all. I do not care at all if the card was the first of something. My good friend Adam Gray from Basketball Card Fanatic magazine, the Real 27 guy, he will be recoiling when I say this because Adam is a big proponent of firsts, and that's totally okay. So are many people, but for me, I just don't get it. How often are the firsts of something a clearly inferior product? Quite often, most of the time, I would argue. And so for me, if you recall my personal card scoring video from a few months ago about how to not accidentally buy the wrong cards, it was all about coming up with your own scoring system to determine what do you truly like. I put the most emphasis personally on the aesthetics of a card, the design and the photo, as well as the specific player on the card. Those two things, for me, have a much higher value than something being a first, something being a rookie or a prospect or the first year of a set. So I want to show you a comparison here, and I think this is a really good one. Here's Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest to ever play the game, one of the greatest centers of all time. I loved watching Hakeem play when I was growing up. And here is his 1997-98 EX 2001 Essential Credentials Future iconic set. This sold on Golden Auction back in August for $5,000. I'm going to blow this up so you can get a really good look at this card. If you're not familiar with this set, multiple layers, acetate, different colors, very, very, very innovative card design, way ahead of its time. And frankly, one that set the precedent for so much more innovation to come in subsequent years for cards. So $5,000 back in August for that card, and it's in the PSA 7. We're gonna get to that more later. Now we'll jump over and look here. This is his PSA 10 Fleer 1986. This sold actually a few days ago on November 6th, 2023, and this card sold for $4,800. Roughly the same price, you know, when you're talking $5,000, $4,800. For me, hands down, no question about it. Give me that Essential Credentials card every single time. I don't care that it's a rookie card. Why should a rookie card be that much more money? I want a cool card. I want something that's rare, that's really unique, that's awesome, not something that just anybody can have in any grade. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons, you know, why. This actually leads me to my second item. Item number 2 that you might care about more than me. I care about the condition of a card, but I do not care about the number grade. Grading is subjective. The people who grade our cards are allegedly experts, but we don't know anything about them. We don't know about their training. We don't know about their credentials, no pun intended. I don't know who is grading my cards. I don't know how closely they're really looking at them. I've done videos in the past where I broke down the math based on gem rate data to show that it looks like PSA graders are spending on average maybe 30 to 45 seconds, absolutely tops, with your card when they grade it. And yet, I'm supposed to believe that some other anonymous person's opinion of my card should matter more than my own opinion does to me. That is poppycock. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not bashing grading. I'm not bashing PSA, SGC, CGC, BGS, any of them. Tag. I appreciate the authentication aspect more than anything, and it especially is important for sets like those credentials where one's cards can be faked, backdoored, and other things, right? I also appreciate the security of encapsulation, but there isn't a single one among us who hasn't sent in cards for grading after painstakingly reviewing them for defects, maybe for a long time, way more than 30 or 45 seconds, only to get back 9s or even 8s or sometimes worse, and we look at the card and we still can't see anything wrong with it. So why should a barely visible defect, or in some cases, maybe even an imaginary defect, impact the value of my card to the extent that it does? The difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10, aesthetically, from an eye appeal perspective, is negligible. Yet the difference in price can be anywhere from 2x to 200x, depending on the card. Let's look at some good examples of this, shall we? Here is the iconic, famous 1989 Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck card. You know the card, bad on the shoulder. The difference, right? This card was printed to the moon in multiple print runs. Like, they just kept printing it and churning it out because it was so popular. We're looking at pop 30,000 for a PSA 9. Pop 30,000 for a PSA 9. And just pop 4,100, only pop 4,100 for a PSA 10. So these are around, they're obtainable. The price difference is a 10x multiplier, $181 versus $1,900. That's the price multiplier as of this point in time, both of these cards having sold in the last few days. I guarantee you that you could find a PSA 9 that looks better than a PSA 10. That a PSA 9 that looks better than one of those 4,100 PSA 10s. You also might be able to find a PSA 8. Let's switch this. Let's look and see what a PSA 8 goes for on this card. PSA 8 goes for $71. You might be able to find a really, really well-centered, nice eye appeal PSA 8 with some glue smudge or something else on the back of the card that brings that card grade down. But if you want to display that proudly in your home, you wouldn't know the difference one way or the other except for that grade displaying. And that's what I'm kind of getting at. Let's take another card here. This one's crazy. So here we have Derek Jeter's 1993 SP foil. These are pretty rare cards, right? The PSA 10 is pop 21. This card is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, gem rate of any card ever in history graded by PSA. So you've got 621 PSA 9s. And we're going to have to change our date range here to see actually when one of these other ones sold. I'll go all data so we can for sure get one here that sold. Okay, so you can see the difference here is absolutely crazy. $204,000 for the PSA 10 of this Jeter. $204,000. So the 9 probably goes for $80,000, $70,000. No. The 9 last sold for $4,000. Now maybe those PSA 10s are just so much better looking than any of these 9s. Maybe they are. But do you really care? If you just want this card for your collection, do you really care? Think about all the cards you could have in your collection for the $4,000 version of that Jeter, and then another $200,000 to spend on other cards. That's what I'm talking about in this scenario. I'm going to push it to one more, example here just to further illustrate the point. You know the Jordan, the PSA 10, $210,000 on the Jordan, $15,000 on the PSA 9. We're talking pop 322 versus pop 2951 on the 9. So for me, 9s are fine. They're more than fine. I'd rather have a really awesome collection of super cool rare cards in 9s or even lower, like that Hakeem 7, as long as they look good and clean to my eyes, much more than I would rather have a few cards but in a 10 at a massively inflated price due to artificial scarcity. All right, third point, and this one's related to what we've already seen here. Let's talk about the great year 1986. Little Teapot was 1 year old. I think the 1986 Fleer set design is ugly as all get out. Red, white, and blue with yellow? Get out of here. These photos in the set, some of them look really good. The photo of the Jordan is amazing, but the card design is not good. Look at this. Everybody's got this kind of cognitive bias about this card because it's iconic, because it's Jordan's rookie card, because it is such a sweet photo, tongue out, fly into the hoop. Hard to get better than that, frankly, especially for photos back in the 80s. But this card design does not look good. It's ugly. If a design like this came out today, it reminds me of what the people call the Donruss Poop Brown set. It just doesn't do anything for me. And speaking of Poop Brown, let's look at the sticker. This card is basically off-white and yellow, and then you've got the red from the jersey on here. Kind of hard to read this, a weird design. You're like, what's going on? There's actually a border, but you can't tell that there's a border. There's like 3 different borders happening. It's not a good design. And possibly even worse than that design is the 1986 Topps. Obviously the Jerry Rice iconic card here. Green, white, and yellow. If this card didn't have this yellow around it, it might not be so bad. Obviously, I mean, that's just very 80s vibes, just sort of these horizontal lines, like somebody just got their first version of, clip art and they're working with this or whatever paint, but it doesn't look good. And so for me, I don't really particularly like these products. There's way more cards. I could get so many cool Jerry Rice cards before this rookie card. I'm not gonna chase it because it's his first card. I'm not gonna chase it because other people like it. I'm not gonna chase it because it has some kind of iconic appeal. Not for my collection. I'd much rather have other things. So that brings me to my 4th point, national treasures. Can you say overrated? I know some of you would chant that with me. The designs used to be better. And the patches used to at least be event worn from the rookie photo shoots. And then they were switched to just player worn. And now they're not from any specific game or event. Are they even from the specific player? We don't really know. Now I do like some of the veteran NT cards, and some of those patches are cool, and they're almost always, if not always, game worn for the veterans. Sometimes those veteran cards have on-card autos, sometimes they don't. But NT, in my opinion, it's an absolutely brutal product to open. I've never opened it personally, but I've watched a lot of breaks. And you're basically just chasing the RPA, and you have to hit on the RPA in order to make your money back. It's basically a box filled with cards that a lot of people don't really care about, and just that one RPA sandwiched in between. So, to kind of illustrate my point here, this Steph card, the NT Steph rookie, very cool card. Super chunky patch, really cool. It's from the rookie photo shoot. This is a really nice looking card. It's very elegant. It kind of has flawless vibes. It kind of has immaculate vibes before those sets had originally come out. And like I said, you can see on the back here, I gotta find it, it's like light gray font. I don't know if you can see this, but it does say event-worn swatch are guaranteed by Panini. So it is an event-worn piece. It's not game-worn because it comes out too early. Now we can switch over and I can show you some really cool things too. This Julio Jones National Treasures from 2011. Look at that patch. I mean, they actually took some time to put some really, really cool looking patches in here. Almost all of them look nice, even the ones to 99. You're not getting any white napkin patches or just, something barely there. Even this one has 3 colors to it. And then if you switch to today's product, the other problem that I have with it is that there's too many. It's not just the true RPA, it's not just the true vertical and then a horizontal. There's all these other subsets. So if we scroll down, I can show you some examples. Like look at this, National Treasures rookie signatures. You can see this one here. It's not a patch card, but that's in there and it's considered a rookie. You got this Joe Burrow card here. This has got some different pieces of things going on. It makes it really confusing. I will tell you, our data team, my data guy Parker, he has spent a lot of time over the last few months going in and filling in our database with all of these cards. All the Panini era, flawless, National Treasures, immaculate. He's got them in here. He spent put a lot of effort into that, but it can be tricky to distinguish those when sales data is flowing because not everybody else pays attention to those things. Not everybody else puts the specific sub insert. They might just put, Jordan Love RPA and leave it, but it's not really his true RPA. So keep your eyes on that when you're shopping and trying to sell cards too. 5th point, Topps Chrome base cards. I do not like chromium base stock. I love refractors, but the base card designs kind of look terrible to me. They're very often washed out. They don't scan or photograph well. They look inferior to the paper stock cards. Wemby's Bowman Chrome University card that came out, go look at the photos of that card. You won't see a good photo on the internet for that. It just always looks faded, washed out. That design doesn't look great. Topps Chrome is one of my favorite products of all time, but the base cards themselves really don't do anything for me. It's only fine if it's got some shine, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. So here we go. Kobe, LeBron, 2 great examples, right? The refractors look fantastic. They're shiny. This 96 Topps Chrome refractor of Kobe looks amazing, but when you start getting into the chromium base stock, this really doesn't look very good, does it? In my opinion, it doesn't look good. If you compare that chrome design to the base paper, the paper looks better. The color of Kobe's jersey is actually there. His skin isn't green like Hulk. All of the things about the card look better. Yeah, maybe the card stock feels a little bit different. It feels a little chintzier, but if you're getting it graded and holding it in a slab, then that doesn't really matter anyway. For me, the Topps Chrome base cards, people go after these. They pay all this money. Look at, $4,600 for a PSA 10 Kobe base card. I'd rather, for example, have my Finest Airs Gold refractor that I have in a PSA 8 than I would this card in a PSA 10. And that brings me to my sixth and final point, Logo Man cards and laundry tag cards. Now look, Logo Man cards are cool, I get it. But are they really that cool for the price premium, which is massive? I get people all the time who DM me on Instagram and they want to sell me Logo Man cards. But I am not willing to pay 4 figures for an Andre Drummond card just because it has a Logo Man patch, and they're starting to get worn out. There's a lot of them now. They're making them year after year. They're no longer one of ones only. They'll make them to 3. They put them in multiple products. So all of a sudden it's just Logo Man, Logo Man, Logo Man, Logo Man. And as the manufacturers tend to do, they take a really good thing and then they water it down and they overdo it and it loses its luster entirely. And I would say the same thing with laundry tags. Who decided laundry tags should be more sought after than those super chunky game-worn patches? I don't dislike laundry tags, but I think the multicolored patches are way cooler. So this is the last one. I'm going to show you some examples here. And this is really interesting, right? To illustrate my point. Brooke Lopez, 2 Logo Man cards that have sold, both recently, 11.6 and 10.29. I mentioned like this one. This one was a 3 of 3. It's not even a 1 of 1. It sold for $754. And then you've got this colossal Logo Man here from 2019 National Treasures. Game used Logo Man, very cool. $1,600 for a raw Brooke Lopez card. I would scratch my head if even like a Brooke Lopez super collector were really collecting those. I do know some people, Clint Capella collector, he goes after everything. To his credit, he goes after everything, but I've got so many interests in the hobby that I can't justify spending that kind of money on a guy like Drummond, who I obviously really like, when I know that card may not hold value long-term at all, like at all. If my kids need to sell my collection or something, there's gonna be no value to it whatsoever. So also, if I just look at Brooke Lopez, in our sales history data, and I sort by the most expensive cards that have sold, that Logo Man is the most expensive card. So non-rookie card, 2019, just a Logo Man, most expensive card in our database. And you can see also that one down here. The only two things it's after are his Prism Black Mosaic, 1 of 1 in a BGS 10, and a game-worn jersey here that was used, I guess, back on February 28th. So last thing here I'll point out, kind of to illustrate these 3, I found a perfect search for this. Here you have LaMelo, laundry tag, right? Flawless, beautiful looking card. I love that platinum blue foil. That I am a sucker for. Flawless does a great job with that. This card sold for $98,000 in March of 2022. Then we've got a Logo Man from Flawless also. Got that nice blue foil on here. That one sold in September of last year for $53K. For either of these cards, I would rather have this one. And this one's numbered 3 of 5. It's an on-card auto. And it has a piece of his jersey where it says Hornets. Like, it looks awesome. That, to me, is really, really, really cool. Like, it's unique to the player. You can see it. I think that's really neat. I'd rather have that than either of those other 2 things, especially for the price premium. Maybe if the Logo Man were the same price, I'd go for the Logo Man, but I love a good chunky patch. So what do you think of these? Do any of these things resonate with you? Are there any other aspects of the hobby that just don't make sense to you? Again, I understand the why behind these current hobby dynamics, but I don't necessarily agree with the why. So let me know what you think down in the comments. And while you're down there, do me a huge favor. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, share it with a friend, and tag me over on Instagram at Drummond Card Collector if you have some thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.